In 2020, with the rise of entrepreneurialism, being your own boss has this idea of glamour that comes with it. And today I just feel like I'm going to burst that bubble a little bit and share some of the bad things about being your own boss. Now, you could say I'm part of the problem on this topic because I create content that helps people to become their own boss, to start their own businesses and do their own thing. I recently interviewed one of my students, Andrew, who's managed to build a private label business that's helped him to go full-time on that business and leave other employment behind. And now I love to see that. It's amazing. But I also realize that entrepreneurialism is not for everyone. Some people freak out the moment a problem arises in their entrepreneurial journey, not realizing that entrepreneurialism by definition is the ability to solve problems. If you aren't solving problems, then really you aren't an entrepreneur. So today, in an attempt, I suppose, to warn some of you off that aren't meant to be entrepreneurs, scare some of you off maybe, I thought I'd share with you some of the things I dislike most about being my own boss, but at the same time also offer some remedies about how to overcome those challenges. So if you liked good, balanced business building content, then be sure to subscribe to the channel because that's exactly what you get here. All right, so the worst things about being your own boss. Number one is the weight of responsibility. Now, for me, the only income I receive is from the businesses I run and the investments that I make. I don't have a salaried job, neither does my wife, so the whole income of our family, including kids and everything that comes with that, is fully dependent upon the businesses we run and the income we generate. And that creates this sense of weight, of responsibility and pressure at times, because, it's all well and good if you're an established business, but if you're in startup mode, then you're never too far away from a cash flow crunch for a variety of reasons. Right now, the next thing that we're going to have to navigate is this coronavirus outbreak and how that may potentially impact our business. And that's a journey that we're going to have to navigate as entrepreneurs. Now, we're several years into this journey, but I would still consider us being in a startup phase. We've had £50,000 revenue months, £40,000 revenue months, but just because you have big revenue months doesn't mean that there's going to be a whole load of cash for you to take out of the company if you want to be wise and continue to grow your business. And so there's this weight of responsibility, there's this weight of pressure that can cause you to overwork at times because you feel like, man, if I don't keep working, then the revenue isn't going to keep growing and we're going to find ourselves in a challenging spot. And some people have a tolerance for that pressure, some people have a tolerance for that risk more than others, and some people prefer to play it much safer. I think the sweet spot is in the middle where you're willing to take some risks, but you also don't risk the farm so much that you end up in trouble and then can't grow your business anymore. So for this first challenge, the weight of responsibility, I would say the remedy to that is to really prioritize margins over materials. It's one of my mantras that I've adopted is margins over materials. I love the latest gadget. I love to go on a nice holiday. I love to spend money on my family and friends, and I love all of that stuff. But I've made a commitment now in my finances, in my business, to actually prioritize margins, because none of those things that I mentioned before help me sleep at night, but good margins in my business, having 3 to 6 months worth of expenses saved up in my business, that helps me sleep at night. And I don't know about you, but there's, of course, an element of stress that comes with building a business. But the more I can minimize that and actually be efficient and focus my energy on growing the business instead of crisis management, the healthier my business is going to be. So if you want to remedy that one, consider margins over materials. The second problem, or the thing I dislike the most about being my own boss, is the tax and legal implications. Now, when you're a salaried employee, your employer's payroll department will take care of everything for you. A paycheck arrives on your desk once a month, the money goes into your bank, you can kind of depend on it. There's not really too many stresses or worries. They deal with all the taxation, national insurance, they deal with all of that stuff. And if you don't have any external investments or any other business stuff going on, then there's really no other forms to fill in, no other taxes to pay. You're kind of all all sorted. Whereas when you run your own business, you got to file annual returns for your company. You got to do your self-assessment return for your personal taxes. You've got to pay corporation tax at some level. You'll be paying VAT. You'll be paying personal tax. There are a whole load of things like that come with it, stresses and administrative, procedures that don't come when you're not your own boss. And a lot of people don't think about these things when they start their own business, and then they have to do them and they're like, oh crap, I don't know how to do this. And so if you want to remedy this and not allow it to be something that knocks you out of the game and gets you so frustrated, the first thing I'd recommend is to read the book Profit First by Mike Michalowicz. It's a book that is revolutionary in the way that it teaches you to deal with finances, and it actually teaches a percentage allocation model so that you actually put money aside for tax, so that when the tax bill does come, you aren't freaked out. It's not just tax that it talks about, it's other aspects like operational expenses and owner's compensation, which is the one we all love. But I would highly recommend that. Second thing I would recommend is to outsource your bookkeeping as soon as you can. This is something that I've allowed to creep for too long, keeping it in-house and a lot of the time being done by me. But we're just now getting a bookkeeper on board to help us with all the bookkeeping, because it's going to take so much of the stress of this kind of stuff off of our plates. And then finally, I would really recommend leaning on your accountant. Your accountant is someone who, over the course of running a business, you're going to pay a lot of money. You're going to pay them £1,000 probably in that region a year to do your annual returns. You may pay them to do other things for you, and so you're giving them a fair amount of money. Therefore, you really should take the opportunity to lean on them, ask their advice, and get their advice for your specific circumstances. Aspect number 3 that I dislike about being my own boss is the risk of loneliness. Now, this is something that doesn't really get talked about too much in entrepreneurial circles, but when you go out and do your own thing, you start your own business, you become your own boss, I got all this freedom, but it can actually feel sometimes a little bit lonely because you don't have a whole bunch of employees around you like you would do in an everyday job. That's why we started saying to staff we hire, as we build a remote team due to the flexibility that it provides, we started saying to them, we want this to feel like a family. We don't want it just to be you punch in, punch out and just do a set of tasks, but actually you take on responsibilities and you become part of the family. We want to know what you're up to at the weekend, what you're up to in an evening. And so we do that a bunch of different ways. We have Slack channels that we encourage people to, post updates about their life in, not just work stuff, but life stuff. We're starting to implement weekly, once a week, doing video calls where we do like a Monday meeting via video so that we can all see each other, talk to each other, catch up, talk about the goals of the organizations that we're running, but also find out what's going on in your life. And so I would encourage you, to do that if you can, if you're building a team. But if you're not building a team, if you're a solopreneur, find places to meet other entrepreneurs. Go and work in a cafe instead of in your home office every now and then, just to be around other people and get inspired. But if you are looking to network with other entrepreneurs, we're actually going to be running some network nights in May this year. We're going to be starting them. They've been in high demand, and so if you want more information about that, I'll leave a link in the description below. There's not loads of information yet, but we will be running them soon, and you can sign up down below to receive updates when they come out. It's going to be like really cheap, just minimal price to cover cost. It's not going to be some crazy expensive thing, like probably in the region of £20 just to cover the expenses of the venue. But if you'd love to come along to that and network with other entrepreneurs, you'd be most welcome. Being your own boss and remote work, building a remote team, it has loads of benefits, which, by the way, just a reminder, if you want me to talk about the benefits and do a follow-up video to this about the good things about being your own boss, make sure to let me know in the comments below and I'll get right onto that. But despite the benefits of being your own boss, of course, there are challenges. And challenge number 4, the thing that I dislike the most about being my own boss, is making those tough calls. Tough calls are necessary. Tough calls are absolutely vital to be made if you're going to build a significant business. But there's no getting away from the fact that, they are hard to make. What product should I launch next? What direction should I take this business in? Who to hire, who to fire, what to do in certain environments. It can be challenging. We've just been interviewing for a new role in our organization, and we've had 2 standout candidates, and we spent some time with them. We repeated the interview process, went through second interviews just to make sure, because they were like really standout candidates, and we wanted to make doubly sure. And it put me in a position where we had a really really hard call to make. I wanted to employ both of them. I tried to find a way to make it happen, but just being wise in the development of our business, it just wasn't possible at this moment in time. And so we had to go back to one of the candidates who we'd built a great rapport with, felt like they were really talented, and we had to go back to them and we had to say, look, we've decided to go in another direction. And now for me, that was a really hard call to make because I really liked this person. I really liked what they could have offered. And so it was a super tough email to make, and I felt pretty crappy after writing that email. But as I sat down for dinner with my wife afterwards and we discussed it, we talked about how unfortunately that's just one of the realities of building a business, is that at times you have to make those tough calls. So it's one of the things I don't necessarily enjoy, but I realize it's part of my role as the founder, as the CEO of the companies that we run, is that I've got to make those tough calls. And if you want to build a business of significance, you are also going to have to make some of those tough calls. By way of remedy and how to overcome this challenge, what I would really recommend is that when you're in the midst of having to make these tough calls, make sure you have a clear picture of where you're going. Have a vision for where you're going. Have some direction for what you want to achieve, so that when you have to make these tough calls, you can tie it to a future vision of where you're trying to go or where you're trying to get to. Hopefully these 4 things that I dislike about being my own boss haven't completely put you off wanting to run your own business. If you're still determined to launch your own business, but you're kind of just struggling with getting started, then watch this video here. In it, I talk about the ability to overcome the fears you're facing and just get started with a business that's going to change your life. If you've liked the video, let me know by hitting that thumbs up button. And if you do want me to create that video about good things about being your own boss, or have any other questions, leave them in the comments below. And if you're not yet subscribed, I'd love you to do that too. All right, I'll see you in the next one real soon.